We got some absolutely huge news here coming from the Trump campaign. So it looks like Kamala Harris's surge is actually so massive, it's actually creating some dissent, chaos, and disorganization within the Trump campaign. It looks like it's impacting the Trump campaign to where they're actually kind of starting to give up in some ways. So here's what's going on. So this reads, it says, top Trump campaign staffer in New Hampshire resigns after told volunteers at Team Trump has determined it's, quote, no longer a battleground state. So here's what it says. It says, Tom Mountain, who has served as one of several vice chairs for the former president's effort in Massachusetts, wrote in an email to Trump volunteers in the state that, quote, the campaign is determined that New Hampshire is no longer a battleground state and advised supporters to instead direct their attention to Pennsylvania. The GOP had been bullish about winning New Hampshire before President Biden dropped out of the race. In the email, Mountain, a former official at the Massachusetts GOP, said Trump was, quote, sure to lose by an even higher margin in New Hampshire than in 2016 and 2020, citing, quote, campaign data/research. He claimed resources would be suspended and the campaign would not send Trump or high-profile surrogates such as his sons. The email was obtained by the Globe and confirmed with multiple recipients. So this looks really, really bad for Trump because this looks like officially the campaign is actually just giving up on the state of New Hampshire, which they were thinking that they were going to be able to win. But there appears to be a little bit of a twist also going on here. So the email by Tom Mountain claims that the GOP is basically dropping out or that Trump's campaign is pulling out. But it turns out that that actually is not the official opinion of the Trump campaign. So this is an article from Newsweek. It says Trump campaign ousts volunteer over his warning about New Hampshire report. So there's a lot of layers to this story that's pretty interesting. We'll have to go into the analysis for. But it says here, a Donald Trump campaign volunteer in Massachusetts, quote, will no longer have any involvement in the campaign after he warned in an email that New Hampshire was, quote, no longer a battleground state, according to the Boston Globe on Monday. In an email which was obtained by the Globe, Tom Mountain, a Massachusetts volunteer for the Trump campaign, wrote to other Trump volunteers in the state that, quote, the campaign is determined that New Hampshire is no longer a battleground state and instead directed supporters to focus on Pennsylvania and another battleground state. It says in 2020, Joe Biden won the state with 52% of the vote to Trump's 45%, while in 2016, Hillary Clinton was able to carry the state by around 2,700 votes. I wonder why they switched from proportion to raw. And then it says, Mountain claimed resource to be suspended. Here's what it says, though. So here's a plot twist. It says, however, in an emailed response to Newsweek, Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, denied Mountain's claims and reiterated the campaign's efforts in New Hampshire, stating it, quote, maintains an on-the-ground presence in the state. And so this is something that's directly related to Kamala's surge in the polls that's happening right now. It's making it so that there's actual chaos being sowed. Now, I'm not typically a fan of the chaos theory, because usually when people say that something is chaotic or it's going to negatively impact it because of some kind of view of chaos, I feel like actually what's going to end up happening is it's probably going to actually make it better because you deal with the issues, you get rid of it. It's kind of like on a sports team. If you try to avoid sort of this conflict from happening, you're probably going to prevent a lot of problems that could have been solved, right? But this is showing that there's actually some chaos going on because this guy who's volunteering with the campaign is basically claiming that, the Trump people are leaving. Would this be something that would have happened if Kamala Harris was not surging in the polls? Of course not. They're going to talk about this in a second in the article as well. But so Kamala's surge is causing Trump volunteers to literally drop out, and they're going so far out of their way. They're so dead set that the state is going to be lost. They're actually saying they're making up lies about the Trump campaign, or at least that's what is being confirmed, right? There's might be another conspiracy here. But it's forcing them to actually say, hey, we're going to, the Trump campaign is saying that we're dropping out. So there's a lot going on here. And this is all being directly caused by the Kamala surge, right? Quote, this isn't true. President Trump's campaign maintains an on-the-ground presence in New Hampshire, including staff and offices, while Kamala Harris is parachuting in because she knows that the Granite State is in play. We look forward to building on the momentum that we have grown since the primary and sending New Hampshire's 4 electoral votes to President Trump's column on November 5th. So again, chaos, all caused by Kamala's surge, okay? It says, and this is the strategy by Trump always, right? It's always, I call it the coffee boy strategy. This happened a lot with the Russiagate stuff. Anytime someone was implicated in something, it was always, oh, we didn't really know that guy. He was just a coffee boy. He printed out the newspapers. Who is this guy? Like, we don't know that guy, man. Nobody knows him, you know what I'm saying? So we got the coffee boy strategy again. It says, in addition, the Trump campaign clarified Mountain as a volunteer and does not hold a, quote, formal role in the campaign, adding that he is not privy to internal deliberations about campaign strategy or plans for other states. Quote, it appears this was just an independent attempt to generate enthusiasm for volunteer deployments to a nearby major swing state, the Trump campaign said in an emailed statement. This is a great couching of the situation to be like, yeah, this is just the guy, he just wanted to send stuff to the other state, but it's not like a chaos situation or dissent or a loss of hope or any of this. No. It's just they just wanted to send the people over to the other state, man. That's it. Trust me, that's all. It's this Mountain, who has served as one of several vice chairs for the former president's efforts in Massachusetts, is also a former official with the Massachusetts GOP. So again, this is a coffee boy strategy. He's definitely maybe not formally involved with the Trump campaign, but he's heavily involved with the volunteer efforts, being a vice chair for the former president's effort in Massachusetts, right? So again, he's definitely not just some random coffee boy, but again, there's so much going on here. So the media, I feel like the media is not covering this story enough, honestly. I feel like this should have got more coverage. I feel like this actually could have really hurt Trump a lot more if that were to actually have happened. They're not covering it, and a lot of the fact checks they do are really stupid. One of them is no, Project 2025 doesn't call for an anti-abortion person. It's just a pro-life designated person. And it's dude, it's the same effing thing. What are you talking about? The fact checks are horrible. Or oh no, well this is the debt in the first term. It's talking about the 8 years with Obama or whatever. It's just very weird. So this could be bad media-wise. There's a lot of chaos going on. The supporters are losing hope to the point where this guy Mountain is hey man, let's jump out. And this is directly tied to the Kamala surge. So it says, in July, in the first public survey of New Hampshire voters since President Biden dropped out of the presidential race, Harris had a lead of 6 points over the former president. It says the poll conducted by the University of New Hampshire between July 23rd and 25th shows Harris with a 49 to 43% lead over Trump. The poll surveyed 3016 people and had a margin of error of 1.8. Very small margin of error, is 3 times the margin of error. But here is the caveat. So it says, however, Harris was not previously leading in the state. In a poll conducted by the New Hampshire Journal and Preconis, how the hell do you say that? Analytica, after the Republican convention, but before Biden announced his withdrawal from the 2024 campaign when Harris was matched up against Trump in a head-to-head, her Republican rival was leading her by 1 point on 40% to her 39%. So this is directly tied to the surge because in the pre-surge numbers, he was actually in the lead. And then also it says, according to 538's polling average on Monday, the vice president is 7 points ahead of Trump in the state, 50.3 to 43.2. So we could see there's a lot of chaos going on, dissent, disorganization, almost sounding kind of like the 2020 Kamala Harris campaign for president. Also, it looks like what's going on is the surge in the polls also is causing this big surge in just a bunch of trash tier pollsters. So I recommend checking out my other video on that I posted. But if we check these new polls, what we can see is there's a bunch of really, really bad polls. Sorry, these are the New Hampshire polls. But if you look at all of the polls that are dropping, right? If you were to take a look here at all of the polls and kind of look at what they're looking like, we could see, I guess, this is not appearing to load for me, which is pretty cool stuff. So, yeah, that one, I guess we can try going here and see this one, if this one is going to pull up for us or not. Yeah, it looks like it. Active Vote is sus. Their polls are complete garbage. Their polls actually came out. We looked at their crosstabs. They have 60 or 70% of Democrats going to Kamala Harris. Barely a female margin of 4 points. Active Vote, complete garbage trash. And they're just flooding it. SoCal Strategies, a right-wing pollster, straight up. Insider Advantage, one of the worst right-wing pollsters in 2022. You can go check out my video about that. Active Vote is flooding it with garbage polls. Qantas polls, the people running it are retweeting Elon Musk and doing a bunch of bending over backwards for Trump. Trafalgar, Redfield, Wick, John Wick is out here doing polls. They're also the worst out of the ones we've seen so far from the 2022 numbers. And then Active Vote still doing it. And then we have RMG, Fabrizio, right wing. Redfield. Redfield is just trash. I don't know if it's right wing. And then you have Trafalgar and stuff, and RMG and Rasmussen. So they're trying to do that, and I'll show you why they're doing that, right? So even if we go back to this poll, we can see how they're describing the poll. Check out what they say. So they say, meanwhile, other polls have shown Trump in the lead, including a Trafalgar group poll from August 30th, which put the former president 2 points ahead of Harris among likely voters. A SoCal Strategies poll, which put her ahead 1, and a Fabrizio poll that has her up 1. So this is why they're doing it. Now, I don't know if there's some kind of cabal conspiracy where it's like, hey, let's flood the numbers. But they're definitely flooding the numbers is what's happening empirically. I don't know if there's a conspiracy, though. I'm not saying that. But this is why. Because the coverage in the article in the media is going to be, hey, these dookie trash pollsters that are clearly biased and also trash from 2022, hey, well, they have him ahead. So there's some polls that have him in the lead. So there's a lot of chaos going on right now. So keep an eye out for these bad pollsters. And then I wish the news would cover a story like this more. You're probably maybe only even hearing about this story for the first time from this channel. Maybe, you can let me know personally if this is the first time you've seen this covered. But not a good sign for the campaign, to the point where vice chairs of the campaign volunteering operation are saying, hey, we have no chance. Let's get out of here while we can.